Welcome, everyone. Treat today's explainer like an advanced masterclass. We are going to take a really deep dive into navigating Japanese construction projects by blending cultural intelligence with those hard, technical frameworks you already know. For all of you future and current construction management professionals tuning in, understanding how to operate globally, well, it's no longer just an optional skill set, it's a fundamental requirement. So today, we're going to unpack exactly how the Japanese project management style works on the ground. Let's get into it. Here is our syllabus for today. First, the culture of construction. Second, decisions, nemawashi and ringi. Third, risk and contract structures. Fourth, quality and front-end planning. Fifth, logistics and public interface. And finally, we'll wrap up with the global project manager.
Section 1. The culture of construction. And right off the bat, we need to establish our core premise. Project management is literally never just a technical process. It's inherently a social process.
In Japanese organizations, you'll constantly run into this foundational concept called wa, which translates to harmony. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds like a purely cultural or philosophical idea, right? But actually, in the context of construction management, it acts as a highly effective risk reduction tool right out there on the job site. Instead of hashing things out in a massive screaming match inside the site trailer, which, let's be honest, we've all seen happen, preserving working relationships and avoiding public embarrassment means conflicts are ironed out quietly before they ever become visible, and this guarantees incredibly stable coordination during execution.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when we compare common expectations. Just look at this breakdown. In the US, we tend to rely on fast, visible decisions and explicit contracts. We want to hash it out in the meeting, right there on the spot, and get it in writing. But in contrast, the Japanese tendency heavily emphasizes front-end planning, relationship building, and gaining consensus long before a formal meeting ever takes place. Section 2. Decisions. Nemawashi and ringi. Let's actually look at how choices get made because it's going to be fundamentally different from what you might be used to. Okay, let's dive into this simplified 5-step Japanese decision path. As you can see, it moves from pre-meeting context sharing to quiet alignment to the formal meeting, then the document route, and finally, execution. The absolute most important thing for you to understand here is that a formal meeting is almost never where a brand new decision is debated or forced. The meeting just records the decision rather than creating it from scratch.
So how do they decide? Well, it happens through a fascinating process called nemawashi. Literally, this translates to preparing the roots of a tree before transplanting it. For project managers, this means building support for an idea through informal, private conversations before any formal decision is actually made. This quiet, behind-the-scenes alignment is incredibly strategic. It completely prevents schedule-killing resistance and public conflict later on down the line.
Once that informal consensus is built, it moves to ringi, which is a formal written approval process that circulates through all the relevant stakeholders. Contrast this routing process with your typical US expectation. In the States, you usually walk into a coordination meeting expecting an immediate, highly visible decision from a single accountable manager. In Japan, if you push for an immediate decision at the table, you are totally short-circuiting the system.
Section 3. Risk and contract structures. So, as construction management professionals, we really have to ask ourselves, how does this cultural baseline actually alter our approach to risk?
Let me pose the question to you. When uncertainty remains on a project, where does the risk go? In U.S. teams, we're extremely comfortable allocating that risk through detailed legal mechanisms, heavy contingencies, and formal change processes. We lean on the contract. Japanese teams, however, invest heavily in avoiding rework altogether. Their risk allocation is handled through intense preventative planning, exhaustive quality checks, and deeply detailed coordination before field execution even begins. And this highlights a massive structural difference in project delivery. Think about it. In the US, if we want collaboration, we literally engineer a contract for it, like Integrated Project Delivery, or IPD, or Construction Manager at Risk. We build the contract structure first to force that collaboration. Japanese projects do the exact opposite. They start with relationships and consensus building, and they only use formal documents to confirm the path they've already agreed upon. The entire genesis of trust is completely flipped. Section 4. Quality and front-end planning. Let's step away from the contract level and into the technical capabilities required during pre-construction.
For those of you studying architecture or construction, this divergence is wild. In the US, rules are usually strictly separated by contract. The architect designs, the engineer calculates, the GC builds. Pretty standard, right? But major Japanese general contractors often act as deeply integrated technical hubs. They frequently house robust in-house engineering teams, massive R&D divisions, and dedicated construction technology functions. That technical knowledge is deeply integrated straight through the GC and its long-term supply chain.
Because they have this incredible integrated capability, quality is treated very differently. It's not just a reactive checklist at the end of a phase, it's treated as a complete, embedded preventive system. We're talking about an intense focus on defect prevention, incredibly detailed physical mock-ups, and rigorous, repeatable inspection routines that are designed specifically to eliminate surprises before anyone even steps foot on the field execution site.
Section 5. Logistics and Public Interface. All right, let's take our masterclass out of the office and onto the active dirt.
If you're managing a site in a dense urban environment, job site logistics aren't just about productivity and staging materials. They're a profound exercise in maintaining goodwill and communicating social responsibility. In Tokyo, where buildings are literally mere inches apart, a messy site isn't just an eyesore, it's a neighborhood crisis. This means spotless site separation with perfectly clean fencing, perfectly clear signage, rigorous control of noise and dust, and timing deliveries perfectly so you don't disrupt neighborhood routines.
And hey, when you're conducting field visits or meeting on these sites, your professional etiquette is being observed just as closely as your technical skills. So here is a tactical checklist for you. Arrive early, exchange business cards respectfully with two hands, and let the senior host speak first. But most importantly, frame your questions carefully. Don't be confrontational. Asking, "Why is this slower than the US?" comes off as aggressive. Instead, ask curious questions like, "How do you balance consensus building with schedule pressure?" Pushing for immediate answers is just socially disruptive here.
Section 6. The Global Project Manager. Let's zoom way back out to the macro level and synthesize these lessons for those of you stepping into global practitioner roles.
So the crucial point is how fundamentally our definitions of success can differ. A U.S. project often defines success through hard metrics, hitting the cost, beating the schedule, ensuring profitability, and maintaining legal compliance. A Japanese project expands that definition significantly. They prioritize supreme quality, impeccable safety, a positive public impact, and the continuation of a long-term relationship. A schedule logic that works flawlessly in Atlanta or Dallas simply cannot be copy-pasted into Tokyo without understanding these entirely different end goals.
As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with what is effectively your final exam question. I want you to look at your own teams, your own companies, and your own workflows. How does your company truly define a successful project? Because as you've seen today, cultural intelligence doesn't just complement technical excellence in global construction, it fundamentally shapes it. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and keep building smart.